What is up, my friends? Welcome to a special edition of Ride Review. My name is Tyson, and today I'm showing you an e-bike that hasn't even been released yet. Well, by the time you watch this, it'll be released, but you know, now it hasn't been. Check this out. This is from Lectric Ebikes, and this is the XPress. It says 500, but just ignore that. This is actually a 750 watt motor on here. This bike comes in, there's two different frame styles. There's the high step, which we've got here. You know, nice, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more stable at speed. Then they've also got a low step that's going to be, you know, more approachable, easy to get on and off. And then there's a choice of two different motor variants. So for either one of these, you can do a 500 watt motor, or you can do a 750 watt motor for even more gusto. So that is what we are using today, 750 watts in the rear back here. So let's talk about this bike. Man, this is really exciting. Lectric came out with the new bike, you know, about a month ago, the Lectric One with the pinion gearing system, and it's that is a super cool bike on its own. You should definitely watch that video if you haven't yet. Link to it right up in the corner there. This one is even more purpose-built for commuting. That was what the Electric One was designed for, but it was, you know, still pretty small. Even though it didn't fold, it was very similar to the geometry of their other folding bikes. This is a full-size bike. We've got the 27.5 by 2.1 inch commuting wheels on here. Nice, efficient tread on here. That's gonna get great grip on pavement, but you know, not for off-roading. You can do some light trails and stuff like that. We've got the suspension fork on here, so you know, if you want to tackle some trails, then you know, go for it. 80 millimeters of travel on it. This is Lectric's custom built suspension fork, and the TC80 on here, 80 millimeters of travel. The TC stands for Twin Cities, which is where a lot of the Lectric crew is from, so it's gonna, you know, paying some homage to them. Now, part of what makes this a purpose-built commuter even more so than the Lectric One is the size of the wheels. They're 27.5 inches in diameter, which gives them a significant rolling advantage. So you know, even on bikes that have good suspension, if your wheel diameter is small, you know, 20 inches like it is on the Lectric One, which doesn't have suspension, by the way, that's not a good attack angle for rolling over obstacles. It just doesn't do as well. So here we've got the big wheels, rolls over stuff great. We've got the suspension fork, awesome. Feels very comfortable. We got the rack, we got the fenders on here. We have lights that are built in front and rear. No turn signals, I don't think. So that is, you know, one improvement they could add on for just improving the commuting utility. But the built-in lights are nice and bright, work very well. I mean, look at the size of this headlight. It's huge. It's got cutouts on the side, which means that you can see it from the side at night. Overall, the side visibility is solid thanks to that. You know, you've got the white from the branding on here. There's the reflective sidewall striping on the tires. And if you go with the step-thru variant of this bike, then it's going to be a white frame, I believe. So even more visible if that's really important to you. And this is this is pretty fun too. It's, you know, it looks like a water bottle. This is actually a cable lock that you can use to lock up the bike. I don't know if this comes with it by default or not. I'll find out about that. Definitely, you know, nice to have if you're not trying to carry a regular water bottle. But something I like about the XPress here compared to Lectric's other bikes is that it is full size. You know, I'm a pretty big rider, 6 feet 3 inches tall, about 190 pounds. And so, you know, even though I like Lectric stuff, most of it's just too small for me. You know, I felt that way with the One. I was like, man, this is a great bike, but I just don't fit on it. I fit on this. I mean, it's, you know, it's full size. Actually, it's going to be a little bit longer than this. So this, you know, this is a prototype, which I probably should have mentioned at the start of this video. So there may be little bits of things that change on it before the final production version. One thing that I know is going to change is that it's going to be a little bit longer. Not a lot, but you know, the top tube there is going to be a little bit longer, so a little bit more reach, which I love. And the seat post on this thing is just comically large. I mean, I don't even have it all the way up at the highest level, which I almost never get to say. You know, if we wanted to raise it up all the way, that's where's that minimum point? Right there. So yeah, that's the highest that the seat can go, which is too high for me. I'd be leaning way over forward. So, you know, I've had it, you know, down like right here, which has felt pretty good. So all of that to say, if you are a big person like me, this is probably going to fit you. It fits a pretty wide range of riders. They, you know, they estimate anywhere between 5 feet and 4 inches up to 6 feet 4 inches. And I would certainly concur with the higher end of that. I would imagine the step-thru would probably fit smaller riders a little bit better, possibly. But you know, the large, or the high step, this is the one that I would go with anyways, because you get less frame flex having the top bar and bottom bar on here. So when you go at speed, it is a bit more stable, and This is a bike that is meant for going at speed. On that note, let's talk about the battery and the motor configuration on the XPress. Now, I mentioned you have two different choices of motor size, 500 or 750 watt. These are a nice, slim profile motor back here too, so they don't take up nearly as much space as the typical 750 watt motors do. When you see those on fat bikes, they can be really huge. Now, there's also two different battery sizes, and they're tied to your motor size. So if you had a 750 watt battery, then you get the upgraded 14 amp hour battery on here. And then if you have the smaller 500 watt motor, then you're going to have a 10.4 amp hour. So that's going to affect your maximum range. I think they're estimating around 45 miles range for the smaller battery setup, and then if you have the big one with the 750 watt motor, 14 amp hour, then around 60 miles of range. Obviously, that's going to depend on how you're riding, how fast you're going, etc. But so you should be able to get quite a long ways on this. Now, something that helps with that is that there's a torque sensor on here. This is actually the first electric e-bike to be equipped with a torque sensor, which is hidden away in the bottom bracket here. If you're not familiar with how the sensors on bikes like this work, cadence sensor is kind of the entry level, and it's a little bit more basic. It just measures revolutions of the pedals going around. So as long as you're pedaling, you can be pushing super lightly and pedaling. It'll activate your cadence sensor, and it's just kind of at a predefined level based on your pedal assist settings. Torque sensors, on the other hand, measure pressure. So how hard you press. If you press lightly on the pedals, you get just a little bit of power. If you really press down on there hard, then you get a lot of power. So torque sensors tend to be a little bit more engaging and responsive because they actually, respond to how much work you're putting into it. They engage a little bit better levels of fitness. They can vary a lot with how responsive they are and how they're configured. Now, Lectric has typically gone with cadence sensors, and they do a really good job of how they tune them. They have something called the PWR system that makes them feel a lot better, and it requires less fiddling with the controls to, you can just kind of stick at one assist level and ride at whatever speed and just get that level the whole time through. This completely changes the game, having the torque sensor, because they have it configured very differently than any other torque sensor that I've ridden. And overall, I am a big fan. We're going to really talk about this more in the ride test, but I guess the short version of it is that it's not as instantly responsive. There's more of a delay for this to respond to you. If you start pedaling harder, it's going to be a couple seconds before it kicks onto a higher level. And then on the inverse side, that's also true, where if you were to kind of relax down a bit more, then it's going to take a few seconds for it to kind of drop back down to that. That actually feels really nice when you consider the use case of this bike, right? This is meant for commuting. This isn't a mountain bike where you're going to be doing a lot of aggressive technical terrain and you need that really fast response time. This is more about covering a lot of distance efficiently, and so having it it's like it has a more momentum or inertia to the pedal assist level, where once you start pedaling harder, it kicks up to a higher gear, and then it stays in that higher gear, even if you relax your pace a little bit once you get up there. So the end result is that this is easier to get to and maintain a high speed. If you are doing a long commute to work and you don't want to be all sweaty when you get there, torque sensor bikes can sometimes not be great because you have to keep pushing hard to really maintain that top speed. This bike makes it easy to cruise at that speed without having to be exercising super hard the whole time. Obviously you can, if you want more exercise, you can drop it down to a lower assist level. But if you want to just leave it in level 5 and have it just kind of dynamically respond to how hard you're pedaling and feel easy to cruise at any speed, this is a sweet setup. So we'll save the rest of that for when we get into the ride test. Let's talk about some of the components on here. Drivetrain on here, pretty basic stuff. Shimano tourney. This is the entry-level derailleur from Shimano, but it's Shimano. They work really well. Slightly upgrade back here. So instead of a freewheel, we've got a cassette, and it has a slightly expanded range of 11 to 28 teeth. So the standard freewheel has a 14 tooth down here for gear 7. This 11 one allows you to hit those higher speeds, so getting to 28 miles per hour is quite easy. It's still just a 28 tooth cog back here for first gear, so you don't have down in first gear you can't climb insane hills using just the pedaling, but why would you need to? This is more for commuting. That's plenty, especially with how powerful this motor is. I mean, I'm impressed with this 750 watt motor. It has got a lot of oomph, especially when you consider that when it's in a big wheel like this, the larger the diameter of the wheel, the less mechanical advantage the hub motor gets. So in these bigger wheels, sometimes these motors can feel a little bit on power. This feels awesome, and actually you can kick it up to a higher power mode in the settings, which I haven't even done yet. So, you know, no shortage of power. This drivetrain gets the job done. They've got the double-sided bash guard here on the front chain ring, just to, you know, keep your pants out of it, keep debris out of it. Helps to keep the chain from derailing. They're sticking with the tried and true shifter up here, the Shimano SIS Index thumb shifter, which the pluses of these, they're very easy to work with. Got the nice gearing readout window on here. They're very easy to operate with gloves, which honestly, for a commuter, probably a good idea. They're not as, I don't know, they're not as satisfying as like having the trigger shifters. You know, these have really started to grow on me, and it allows you to have that thumb throttle over here on the right, which I do like having the throttle on the right. And this is a pretty nice feeling throttle too. It's got a good deal of play to it. It's variable, so you can kind of, you know, choose if you want a little bit or a whole lot of oomph. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's any little, oh yeah, there's a few little bits that we missed here. The pedals are actually quick release, and these are pretty fun. You pull this out and then kaboom, pedal snaps out. So this is nice for storage. You know, if you got to put it in your car, that's definitely a nice touch, especially because it's a quick release on the front up here. So you can pop the wheel off, pop the pedals off. You know, even if we're just storing it at the house, that can be kind of nice. And then put it back on, you just repeat the process in reverse, and there you go. You can do it with one hand. What else? Suspension fork is adjustable. So, you know, if you wanted to, you know, to lock it out or, you know, adjust the preload on here, dial it in for your weight or what kind of riding you're doing, you can do that. Always a nice touch. Okay, you know, that covers most of the stuff here. Let's jump into the cockpit and run through it, just the whole, you know, display setup and what have you. You can see I've got their phone holder on here, which I don't think comes with it by default. It might. Honestly, I think instead of the phone holder, they should almost do a flick bell, or at least try to add one in here somewhere. Because if you're going to be commuting, having a bell or horn or something like that is actually pretty important. But anyways, pretty good display layout, flat-ish handlebar here, pretty good width. I feel good on it with my long arms. It's a color display, so let's go ahead and fire it up. It's kind of hiding under the phone holder here. If you hold down the power button, kick it on. This is a pretty vibrant color display. We're in the shade right now. Once we get into the direct sunlight, the camera is probably not going to pick it up, but you know, I can see it even with my tinted sunglasses on. It does a pretty good job. Nice, precise battery meter. At the top here, you can see the wattage output from the motor while you're riding, speed in the center, pedal assist level. There's the odometer, 57 miles on it already. And then you can, I believe you can short press the power button, and then yeah, you can get over to a trip. And, you know, RNG, I don't know what that is. You can see the voltage coming off the battery, current, time it's been powered on, and back to the odometer. So pretty basic stuff here. This is, I believe, the same display that they're using on the One, and overall, solid, gets the job done. I honestly like the grayscale ones better, but that's more of a personal preference, just because they're easier to see in any lighting condition. You know, even if you have, you know, really heavy tinted glasses on and you're out in the sun, you can still see them. But you know, this is, as color displays go, honestly, pretty bright, pretty solid. Let's see, we can turn the lights on, down the plus. And then we get a little light indicator there on the display. Here on the headlight, you can see what I was talking about with the side cutouts, so it is lit up from the side. If we come up here to the front, the cables are a little a little messy. Keep in mind this is a prototype bike, so they can probably clean that up a little bit even more. I mean, the integration for most of the bike is really sleek, you know, the battery and everything. So, you know, maybe a little bit of extra ties on here to get those out of the way. Pretty bright stuff from the headlight, you know, even in bright daylight here, although we're not going to be able to test it out at night. And then here is the taillight. Again, that is actually bright enough to see out here. I like that a lot. I don't know if it's got brake light activation. Let's find out. Hit the brakes here. Not on that one. Now, so some room for, you know, improvement here. For having brake light activation, some turn signals on this would be pretty awesome. But, you know, it's got the basics covered here. And for how cheap this bike is, that's pretty awesome. And I just realized we didn't even talk about the price yet. And so we've got to do that. This is something that Lectric never ceases to amaze with, is, you know, coming out with a bike that's just kind of at an astoundingly low price. If you want the 750 watt motor, you know, like we've got here, that's going to run you $12.99. And I believe they're doing a special for the pre-order where if you buy this one, you get a free extra battery with it, which is a $500 value, which is just ridiculous. That is an amazingly good deal. If you want to go with the slower or the lower power 500 watt version, I believe that is at $9.99 starting out. So still a very good price. I mean, both of these for what you get on here, that's fantastic. They both have hydraulic disc brakes, which we did not talk about. They are Star Union that's on here right now. This might change. This is the prototype. They're not sure what the final brand is going to be. But if you've never ridden hydraulic disc brakes, they're awesome because they're very easy to actuate. You don't have to put a whole lot of grip force on it. They also don't require as much maintenance. You know, mechanical ones, you have to tighten up the cables periodically. It's kind of a whole thing. And they said, I believe they said it's going to be 160 millimeter rotors on here for the production version, which, you know, for a bike like this that doesn't weigh too much, that's pretty solid. You know, especially if you're not, you know, once you get into like more extreme downhill mountain bike type stuff, that's where it's more important to have the bigger rotors for that heat dissipation. For more of a city commuter, this gets the job done. Okay, enough of the, you know, the walk around, talk around. Let's do some riding on this bad boy. I want to show you just what the seating position's like on here, because it's, you know, fairly aggressive. It depends on how high you have the saddle, of course, but, you know, pretty forward on this, which, you know, I like. I prefer a more forward riding stance. It's just, that way your arms can take some of the weight. You're not just putting it all on your butt. So I'm a pretty big fan of this. Let me just kind of push off and get started riding here. And actually, I need to shift this thing down a ways. Let's just go all the way down into first gear for starting. And it's a pretty tall bike too, you know, especially compared to Lectric's other stuff. Having the big wheels on here and everything, I feel like I sit pretty high off the ground. Which, again, like this is my kind of bike for sure. I feel right at home on it, and it's pretty easy to ride here. You know, even though I've got it, you know, in level 0, so we're not even using the motor at all. It feels pretty good just to pedal it like a bike. Bump it up a gear here. I want to see. Let's see how stable the frame feels. You know, it feels pretty stable riding it with 2 hands. Whoa. I haven't actually tried to ride no-handed in a while, so this might not be the best test, but hey, there we go. Feels pretty good. The side wind blowing in here does not help with that at all. But so, all right, so we're still, you know, no assist right here. Just cruising along. I'm up to like 11-12 miles an hour. I feel like if I needed to ride this home without any battery, then I could probably do it. I don't think it'd be too bad. Okay, we're going to just do some testing on the throttle here. Let's see, we're in pedal assist 0, so the throttle's dead right here. So we have to bump this up to at least 1. And then once we're in any pedal assist level, throttle is full power all the time. Now the throttle is speed capped to 20 miles per hour. But I love that they have it configured this way. A lot of bikes, the pedal assist level is linked to the throttle. So if you're in pedal assist level 1, that means your throttle will only get you to, you know, like 10 miles per hour or something. Really defeats the purpose because the throttle is good for being a speed override. So I love that Lectric does it this way. You know, they've been great about this on all their models. So we're just gonna hammer on the throttle and see what we can do here. Remember, we're in the original power setting. We can actually bump this up later in the display settings, which we'll do. For now, this is just the stock settings. It takes off, man. Like, this has got some seriously impressive acceleration, especially for a bike with this size wheels. You know, we're already at max speed, and we actually hit 21 there before it kind of backed off and slowed us down a little bit. I think I mentioned this earlier, but having the variable throttle is nice because you can, you know, I'm going to give it just like a little bit of juice here. So if I wanted to cruise at a lower speed, or, you know, for areas like this where you got pedestrians and stuff on your left, and then it's nice when you just be like, all right, cruise a little bit, and then boom, let's hit it. Look at that. I mean, it just takes off. Now you want to, you know, keep in mind for this review, we're at full battery charge. Like, it's at 100% capacity more or less right now. So that means that we're going to be getting the peak performance. With electric bike batteries, when they're at full charge, you get your best acceleration, and then typically they start to just feel a little bit more sluggish as they get lower. This isn't unique to Lectric, this is just how all e-bikes work. Let's see, I wanted to try and climb some hills on the throttle. This is a decent incline right here. It's not super steep, but let's see what it can do. Okay, we're just starting right at the base of the hill. just hit the throttle. Take it away. Front wheel actually came off the ground a little bit there. Yeah, no problem at all. We're already up to 15. So yeah, that was not even a challenge for it. Let's ride a little further, see if I think there's a little bit steeper of an incline we can really put it to the test on. One thing I do want to talk about with the motor is it's really loud, which is unexpected, I guess I would say, because this is actually the M24 Stealth motor, same one they have on the X-Peak, I believe. Quieter than their other ones, supposed to be anyways, but this one's pretty loud. Now before I got this bike, they had to swap out the 500 watt motor for the 750 one. This is a prototype bike, so something might have gotten goofed up in there, but anyways, here is just a little listen at the motor. I'm just gonna hammer on full throttle. So it's pretty loud. It's not quite what I would call stealthy, but like I said, this is a prototype bike. I think something might have gotten goofed up on there, because I have ridden on the X-Peak and remember that being less loud than this one is. So we're gonna do this twice. Let's go left first. It's not quite as steep. Again, throttle only. Let's hit it. Whew. This would probably be easier with two hands, but we're just doing it. Okay, now is where it gets really steep. No problem. Nice. Let's come back down here and do it again. Okay, same test. This time we're gonna veer more to the right there where it's really steep. I mean, that's this is maybe a little sketchy to do with one hand, but let's give it a go. All right. We made it. I mean, yeah, look at that. That is no joke. So pretty impressive torque and acceleration from this motor. Now, this is the 750, so if you have the 500 one, I don't think we could have tackled that, but I wasn't even pedaling. So with a little bit of pedaling, you could do some pretty steep stuff. Oh, right. Now, in order to really see what this bike can do, we need the chest cam. So here we go. We are now going to try out the pedal assist levels on here. Let's get back onto the paved path. It does feel pretty good on here thanks to having the suspension fork, but I can definitely hear the chain situation rattling around a lot back there. Better for the pavement. Oh, let's take it away. I'm trying in pedal assist level 1 right now, which is pretty tame. Gives you just a little bit of juice, as you would expect. This is a good one for if you really want to prioritize getting a lot of exercise. We can still theoretically hit the top speed. Let's try bumping it up. I'm going 16 miles per hour now. The motor's pretty quiet in this level. Don't hear a lot coming from it back there. And this, of course, if you wanted to maximize your range, this would be the way to do it. Right in level 1, and 60 plus miles would probably be pretty attainable. But it's just not as fun. So let's bump it on up here. I find with most pedal assist systems, level 3 and up is really where it starts to get exciting. So I'm gonna put it into 3. And we're just gonna start riding. Oh yeah, we get so much power. Let's just see how fast we can get going in level 3 here. We're already up to 25 miles per hour. $27, $28. Pretty easy to get that top speed. I'm having to put in some work to make that happen, but I feel like I'd be able to get up there and cruise at that pretty easily. All right, onto the street proper. We can get going a little more quick. I'm actually able to, get up to around 28 miles per hour just using gear 6, not even having to shift all the way up. So we've definitely, got enough to work with, at least as far as the gearing range goes. Okay, here we go. Nice straightaway. We'll do one more run in assist level 3. I am shifted, I'm in 6 now. Let's go ahead and bump that on up to gear 7, highest gear. And
There's 28, we hit it. Something that I like is that it's pretty easy to, you know, maintain cruising speed once you get up there and hit it on this bike, compared to a lot of other torque sensor equipped bikes. I'm trying to think how the best way is to demo that. The volume of the motor on this particular model is actually going to come in handy here because you can hear how it responds to my pedaling. Yeah, let's try going this way. Okay, so what we're gonna do, bump on up to level 5 first. Let's just do a quick demo of level 5, just pedal assist. You know, I'll slow down to just a few miles an hour, then I'm just gonna take off, pedal as hard as I can, instant activation, and just massive acceleration. You know, we hit 28 miles per hour just in that short little section. Let's see, we need a better place to ride. This path looks pretty good. Whew, this is getting a little steep though. Let's try and turn our way around out here. Definitely have my seat way too high for this nonsense. Whew, all right. So, the level 5 is awesome. It's got a lot of oomph to it. And the best part is just the way that they have it tuned. It kind of has some inertia, some momentum to it, right? So if I start pedaling out, you know, right now I'm just putting very light pressure on the pedals, and I'm actually getting, you know, a decent amount of juice. It looks like the motor's putting out 200 to 250 watts when I just pedal lightly right here, barely putting any pressure on it, right? More than you would typically get for a torque sensor, even in the highest level of assist. So they're giving you a little bit more power, which, you know, like I mentioned, for the purposes of commuting like this, I do kind of like having that. You know, if you want more exercise, that's why you drop it down to those lower levels. Where this gets interesting is you know, when we start to push harder and change how hard we're pedaling while riding. All right, so starting out here, I'm going to be giving light pedaling. We've got a little bit of power from the motor. I'm going to start pedaling hard now. Hear how the motor kind of slowly ramps up to it. But now that I'm pedaling hard, I'm going to, you know, I'm switching back to pedaling light now. The motor power has dropped off a bit, but it's still enough that you know, it was easy to maintain that cruising speed that I pedaled myself up to. It kind of like sticks there unless you know, hit the brakes or really, you know, you'll stop pedaling, for example, or just really go light on them. Okay, let's show that again. I'm pedaling lightly and just kind of maintaining speed right at 20 miles per hour, right? So I can just cruise along like this, pretty easy. Now if I want to increase to max speed, since this is a torque sensor, I don't have to hit anything. I just start pedaling harder. The motor kicks up, gets me up there. Now I'm gonna switch back to pedaling lightly, same as I was before. Now I am maintaining speed, well, I was, at about 26 miles per hour. Higher than before, even though I was pedaling at the same lighter cadence. Here, let's try that again. Get on up here to, you know, around 25, 26. There we are. Now I'm gonna switch and start pedaling more lightly. And I am maintaining 25 to 26 miles per hour. So in a sense, essentially what I'm able to do here is I can change the amount of pressure that I'm putting on the pedals to change my speed to go faster, which is where it's most important, really. Like, you know, the torque sensor responding to slow you down is not nearly as important as the acceleration, right? So I can use it for that, and then once I get to the speed I want to be at, I can just kind of resume more casual, you know, regular pedaling, and it's going to stick there and maintain that. You guys can probably tell I'm kind of having trouble quantifying what's different or special about this torque sensor setup, but you know, if you ride other torque sensor bikes and then this one, you can feel a definite difference. You know, this is their, I think they're calling it PWR Plus. So what they've done is they've essentially married the, you know, power wattage regulation system that they use on some of their newer cadence sensor bikes with a torque sensor on this bike. And so the long, I guess, like the nutshell version of what's different about it
It's not as responsive as most torque sensors, especially something, from like Bosch or Yamaha. Those ones respond instantly to your torque changes, whether that's acceleration or deceleration. They're much more engaging and more active. So like, good for fitness, but really that's best for, like really technical terrain, really active cyclists, people who are really trying to maximize their exercise or really need that quick response time. For people who are riding more in the city and especially commuting, you don't actually need that kind of responsiveness. What you need, or like what I think feels better, like I really like this, honestly. It's growing on me. It's the trade-off for not being as responsive is that sort of inertia, staying power, where it responds to your torque to change your speed level to however fast you want to go, and then when you switch back to just kind of more relaxed regular cycling, it just kind of maintains that speed. And that feels really nice, especially if you're commuting a long ways to work or school and you don't want to be exhausted when you get there. Okay, we're going to do kind of a little speed run range test here. Let's see, we're at 61 miles ridden total so far on the bike. Not me, 57 of those were on there already. But I'm gonna keep in level 5 and just try to cruise at top speed, 28 miles per hour, as much as I can. And we're just gonna, there's a lot of fun trails out here, so as long as we can go that fast, without running anybody over, that's what we're gonna do. All right, well, we did another 3 miles there. It was a breeze. I actually hit 29:30 on quite a few spots because I was actually pedaling past the point of assist, which felt pretty easy to do. But just maintaining 28, as long as there weren't tight curves or people around that I had to slow down for, easy to maintain that. Still getting some exercise. If I wanted more, I could always drop the assist level down lower. But the point of that was go fast. Okay, so that's the end of my time here with the XPress, which is going to be coming to an online store near you very soon. So, what do I think about it? Overall, huge fan. My favorite part about it, especially compared to the rest of Lectric's lineup, is that this is more like a standard, traditional bike in terms of the ride feeling, the size, the fit, the seating position, and everything. This feels more like a bike, which I like. I've been a cyclist my whole life. So if that's something that's kept you from getting Lectric's models in the past, now you can do that. Having multiple frame types is awesome. I like the high step, but having the step-thru for something that's more approachable, easy to mount and dismount is always a plus. And then there's different motor and battery sizes. I would definitely go for the 750 watt one, right? More powerful, but then if you pre-order it, you get the extra battery thrown in, which is a massive deal. And for the price point on these bikes, $12.99 for the 750 watt, that is a steal. Overall, I think this bike is very well designed, very well built. It's not going to feel as premium as some of the more expensive stuff out there. You might get something with fancier shifters, bigger range back here and different derailleurs. But for standard city commuting, this is really all that you need to get the job done. And so, especially if you're trying not to break the bank, like that's a very important thing to consider is your value to price ratio. And this is excellent. For just improvements, if there's any stuff that I would change on here, not really a lot jumps out to me. Really missing the flick bell, which this is a prototype again, so I wouldn't be surprised if the production one does have a flick bell. Just something so you can let people that you're coming up
behind them without having to yell at them. You know, having turn signals and brake lights would be nice as well, you know, especially for commuting in cities. You know, having that extra lighting and signaling goes a long way. But you know, there are third-party ways that you can add that on here. And since you're not spending very much money on the bike, you could spend a little bit on some extra accessories. But you know, they got the basics covered on here. You got the rack, you know, you got the fenders, you got the basic lighting integration, you got the sidewall stripes on the tires. The suspension fork is pretty nice too. Overall, big fan of this stuff. I think Lectric's done, you know, a really nice job. They're steadily upping their game. They've always done a really good job with their electronics configuration, but you know, in the recent years, especially with their last two bikes, they've started to improve the, you know, the traditional bicycle components of their stuff. And the way that they marry these two together, like with their PWR Plus system here, which is a torque sensor, but it's not like the torque sensor on every other e-bike. You know, they're actually doing something different that sort of marries the responsiveness of the torque sensor with the more, I don't know what you would call it, the more like, I guess, commutability of their cadence sensors and their powered wattage regulation system. Anyways, you know, long story short, big fan of the bike. I only got to spend a couple hours with it here, but still happy to answer any questions, of course. So let me know down in the comments section if you do have questions. And you can also look for a link in the description to a write-up that we have over on our website, ridereview.com, where I go into a little bit more detail. I got some photos of the bikes on there, all the specs and all that. Be sure and check that out. Thanks for coming along today, guys, and I will see you in my next video.